Alright, time for another episode of the Joshcast. Another episode of the Joshcast. Somebody ate too many carbs. Another episode of the Joshcast. Ooh, it's not gonna be a good day for Josh's intestinal tract. Hey! Well, the good news is, it's day 3 without eating dessert sugar. That's what I'll call it, because I still had sugar. Because there's sugar in all the sauces and the spaghetti, and I did have a bagel yesterday. But because I had a bagel and spaghetti, it was too much carbs, and I've gotten to the point where I can't handle that. I get sick to my stomach. My tummy gets ill. My tummy gets knackered. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't care if that's the right word. It's the word I want to use in that moment. My tummy gets knackered. As I mangle another accent. And thus, I proceed today feeling bloated and nervous. It is, and then I saw apparently there was a fire in some buildings near where I live. Not too near, like, 10 minutes away by car. And my first thought was, it's going to affect my commute. When it should have been, I should have compassion for the people who were suffering in the fire. No one died, but there were possible injuries. The fire hit a sushi restaurant, which sucks. I'm a huge sushi fan. I enjoy sushi. I enjoy Japanese cooking. I think... Well, part of it is I like seafood, but the other part of it is the symmetry of it, really. It's really, for an obsessive-compulsive, just the way that a Japanese meal is prepared and set out, it's very... a lot of perfect circles. I'm like that. I like that. That's good for the brain. Makes me feel like there is some semblance of order in this universe. Even though there is not, I feel that there is. That is my feeling on that. Received a tweet this morning because a few podcasts ago I asked favorite car or least favorite car, one of the two. Something about a car. The tweet today says something about the Airstream, which I didn't even know what that was. I had to look that up. It's the silver bullet looking trailer. And I had no idea what it was because that concept is foreign to me. And to my family, I would say. The whole going on the road on an adventure, living in a trailer, that's, if I would live for a few days on a trailer if the trailer had the following. Number 1, a solid foundation on the earth. Number 2, room service. Number 3, it was a Hilton. That's fine. I mean, if you want to rename the Hilton the trailer, but have it be the same thing as a Hilton, then I'll be there. I will be there for I'll be there for a whole week. What the heck? So, what now? What to discuss at this point? The car in front of me is a Chevrolet. Sexy sounding name, Chevrolet. As opposed to Chevrolet. When I think of Chevrolet, I think of the cop cars in the 80s movies. It's always a Chevy. Usually I think it was the Chevy Caprice. And I know I've discussed this in previous podcasts, but I think it's worth a second look. It's now time for that segment. A second look at the same topic that was discussed 5 podcasts ago. A second look. Yes, it's that sense of nostalgia at the Chevy Caprice, which was always the car driven by the police. I remember my parents used to take me to Aspen in the summers. We're not rich. And the police cars up there at one point were Saab 9000s. And I'm a huge fan of the Saab 9000. Another thing I've discussed in a recent podcast is the fact that I had a Saab 9000 as a toy. And as I have said, it is basically take a 1980s Volvo and make it 1% sexier, and that is the Saab 9000. Only 1% sexier. 2% sexier, now we're talking about a Subaru. But this was the police car in Aspen. Here was the tricky part about when my parents were taking me on vacation. As I got older, as puberty hit, suddenly I found I needed time for me. Me time. Let's just call it that. And suddenly, when I'm on vacation with them, I'm filled with a sense of horror of when, where, and how will me time occur? And that was very, I don't know, I guess what I want to impart to you is that if you're ever in the situation where you're going to raise a teenage boy, really, I mean, other than I love you, which I guess is important to say, the second best important thing that you can say to that teenage boy is, hey, I'm gonna go shopping for about an hour. You say that, man, it's really going to relieve the tension. Hey, just want to let you know, I'm going to go shopping for an hour, and I will be back at exactly 7:14 p.m. on the dot. Just FYI. You say that, man, you will. That is how you win the hearts and minds. Actually, now that I think about it, when I was reading about the fact that there was this fire nearby, I do remember early this morning hearing a helicopter, which woke me up. Probably a news helicopter, coming to see what all the fuss is about, providing aerial coverage of a fire. Why? Because they need the ratings. That is why. Did it help having them over the fire? Probably not. And it woke me up. So now I'm groggy. So you can see how one little fire affects the entire community around that fire. And that fire in North Hollywood, that was the beginning of the end of the fall of the American Empire. As a result of that fire, soon-to-be Senator Johnson McNair was unable to get a full night's sleep and was groggy and suggested to the Senate later that day, while he was groggy, that for whatever reason they should just launch all nuclear missiles. And for some reason, the entire rest of the Senate agreed with this. And that was the end of the world. I watched The Burbs last night. Never seen it before. Interesting how I talk to people who absolutely love this movie. And what is my feeling about The Burbs? Because I'm also a huge Joe Dante fan. He did Gremlins, and he did Inner Space. So I'm a fan of his. A fan of Tom Hanks. It was a good cast too. I don't know. It didn't. I really wanted to like it, but it didn't quite do it for me. And I also think the other weird thing about it is that I feel like I could feel that it was a different style. That's how old I feel and how much, in some ways, movies have changed. Because, it was really played quite serious, which makes total sense given that I think they wanted to kind of mine the comedy out of the awkwardness of it and the uncertainty and dread. But if it were made, I feel like if it were made today, there would be a lot more comedic ad-libbing funny lines to comment on what's happening. And they did a little bit of that, but not nearly as much as they would have done today, and it would have been much more of just a joke fest. And I feel very guilty for saying this, but I think I would have preferred the joke fest. I wanted more jokes. I wanted more jokes than were in there. And no, it wasn't. And let me be clear, it wasn't a bad movie, and I think it was, as Roger Ebert would say, he tries to judge a movie based on what the intent of the movie was. So if the movie's a horror movie, it's not about, was this necessarily an Oscar-winning movie? It's about, all right, did it scare me? And I think this one, as a light, a dramedy, a comedic thriller, I think it did what it set out to do. Why is this becoming a film criticism podcast? I don't want that. At one point my mom said, you could become a critic. No, I don't want to be a critic. I don't want to criticize. I want to do. I want to do my own version. Where there's a man living in a house. Well, I want to update it for today. So all of those houses are $1 million homes today. So I think if the movie were today, it would be a man living in an apartment with his family of 5. And they're hearing strange noises in the apartment next door. And the other neighbors are an astrophysicist and a teacher and a reporter, and all of them are broke as well. And I feel like what it should lead to is they think it's a murderer, but it turns out to just be a YouTuber. And that's the plot of my movie. Yeah, well, okay. This is what happens when you eat pasta. This is what's happening. My brain is being interrupted by the fallout from the pasta. The brain is being interrupted by the fallout from the pasta. We've defeated him. How? Well, though he is an all-powerful Jedi, we know for a fact that he has trouble processing gluten. We've served him with pasta. And now he is distracted. And let me tell you, it's a pain to take off those robes every 15 minutes when going to the bathroom. If you know what I mean. Excellent. The dark side of the Force will prevail again. Cyril, you are right. You seem a bit groggy. There was a fire near my domicile. And the news hoverships were hovering by, and it woke me up this morning. And I simply have not been able to feel the same since. Perhaps you should use the dark side of the Force. Oh, I killed them all. No, but I mean to wake up. Oh. I don't know if the dark side of the Force works that way. It's mostly good for killing people. Well, the light side of the Force, they have Force healing. Yes, I know they have Force healing. I know they do. I know that's what they have. But we can strangle people. We have Force unhealing, okay? How about that? Will that make you feel better? I'm not trying to diss on the dark side of the Force. I'm just saying we have all these other powers. Has anyone with the dark side of the Force tried to... Are you going to say the word heal? Because that's a positive, good side thing. No, I'm not going to say heal. Has anyone ever used the dark side of the Force to perhaps feel less bad? Feel less bad. Well, I think the dark side of the Force teaches us that if you want to feel less bad, you do so by making other people feel worse. So if I'm groggy in the morning and I need a pick-me-up, I kill people, and then I feel better. How many people do you have to kill before you feel better? It depends. If it's an evening after I've had pasta, which I really can't digest so well anymore, it takes 15 or 16 people before I have a smile on my face. Feeling a lot of anxiety this morning. It's Monday. A lot I gotta do. Sorry, a lot I have to do. Not a lot I gotta do. There's a lot I gotta do. There's a lot I gotta do at the workplace. And what accent is this? It's a New York-ish, Chicago kind of, you know, not a guy who necessarily went to college. However, it's not to say the guy is not intelligent, and perhaps more intelligent than the guy who went to college. He's got street smarts, this guy. Now, in 19th century England, it wouldn't be called street smarts. It'd be called cobbled road smarts. In the Dark Ages, it'd be called he's got mud path smarts. Now, in ancient Rome, you could go back to street smarts. Or at least road smarts. Before that, it's mud path smarts. And way before that, I mean, when there was only street smarts, I think that was just smarts. He's smarts. Cave Guy Jim, smart. And that is the tracking of smarts, if you will. If you will. If you will. If you will. If you must. But I must, if you will. Will you? I will, if I must. But you must. Must I? If you will. How do I close out a fine podcast this morning? How do I close this out? What do I want to leave you with? Where shall we go from here? Clothing. Let's talk about clothing. First of all, tweet your least favorite kind of clothing. Whatever that means to you. For me, it's got to be the tie. I have a very troubled relationship with the tie. In middle school, we went to go see an opera. We had to go see an opera. We did not choose to see an opera. It was thrust upon us. We had to wear ties. At the end of the opera, I said to the teacher, now that the opera is over, can I take off the tie? And she said, no. You cannot take off the tie. We still have to go eat. I think they took us to the Olive Garden because, you know, it's an authentic experience with Italian opera. And we have to wear the tie the whole way through because we are mature adults. And that's what it means to wear a tie. If you wear a tie, you are a mature adult. Ergo, if I scream and yell and cry, I throw a temper tantrum. If I put on a tie, now I'm making policy. And that's the end of the podcast.